this. So, as we're moving along now, this has been a really great day. I mean, we're starting off talking about kind of the overall picture of this new path of capital formation, Title III, Title II, Reg A Plus. And now we're going to an area which is also near and dear to my heart, which is the intrastate crowdfunding space. I think that this is a really important part of the path of capital formation. I think that when you look at companies raising capital, I think that it's those local companies, your local retailer, your local restaurant. I mean, these are the companies that will benefit mostly from intrastate crowdfunding. And we've seen really a wave of states that have been adopting and implementing their own crowdfunding laws, and it really all began in two states. It started with Kansas, but they started with their laws a little bit different from what Georgia had done. But Georgia was the #2 state in the country to adopt intrastate crowdfunding laws, and which is the Invest Georgia exemption. And Georgia, and I'm proud to say because I live in Georgia, it's my home state. They have really been setting incredible precedents in the crowdfunding space for the country. So we are really honored to have with us today Georgia Secretary of State Brian Kemp to talk a little bit about what's been happening in Georgia in the intrastate crowdfunding space, and then we're going to head right into the intrastate.
Thank you very much. Can y'all hear me in the back all right? I appreciate that, Sam and Dara, for having me. And I tell people, we're #2 in the program, but #1 in your heart, right? It's an honor for me to be here today. I appreciate the opportunity to be with so many impressive folks that are doing really innovative things. And I was just thinking in the back of the room, I was reading an AP article about Mark Zuckerberg giving away $45 billion. I was thinking that'll solve a lot of our problems in this room if we could direct that money where we want it to go. But when I was elected Secretary of State in 2010, I really brought the perspective of a small business owner to the office. I mean, that is what I've been doing for most of my adult life after I got out of the University of Georgia. And I certainly knew firsthand the difficulties that small businesses can and do face getting financing for projects. And, and I also knew that investors were being limited in their options as well. And just to give you a little bit more of background, I mean, I started my business career working for some guys that had a construction company. I was buying rental property, started my own company in 1993, was building and developing. But also as part of a group that started a small community-based bank. And I've also, right before getting in the Secretary of State's race, I was involved with a food processing agribusiness startup in Georgia. So literally the last 8-9 years, I've been trying to raise money for deals and hunting money, just like a lot of other people are. And I really brought that perspective as well to the office. In Georgia, the Secretary of State serves as the Commissioner of Securities, and I was interested in what we could do as a security regulator to help both businesses and investors in Georgia. And one of the ideas that we implemented was the IGE, as we call it, the Invest Georgia exemption, as Dara said, the second interstate crowdfunding exemption that was out there and went into implementation. A lot of states have enacted the interstate crowdfunding exemption since then, but I think Georgia's remains unique for a lot of reasons that I'll discuss through my comments. I did want to thank a couple of people with me today, my General Counsel and Deputy Securities Commissioner Ryan Germany, who's in the back of the room. Ryan has been really a great asset for us to move the ball on our original exemption, and then Vincent Russo's here this morning as well. He's my former General Counsel and was the Deputy Securities Commissioner. And Vince really helped draft the original IGE really brought the concept to me, and you know, I had the fortune of being able to embrace that and help implement it. But really, those two guys did a lot of this work, and I know they've been working a lot with folks at the SEC and DARA and other people to continue to promote this cause. So I hope that you all will. They have a lot more technical knowledge than I do, so you don't have to worry about me getting into the legal weeds. But they will certainly be glad to talk to you, and they're great guys and have been very helpful to me. The Invest Georgia exemption, as I said, is an interstate crowdfunding exemption that allows Georgia companies to raise money from Georgia investors with minimal compliance cost. And the purpose of the exemption was to provide Georgia-based entrepreneurs with more access to capital. I mean, it's very, very simple. And also provide a way that investors could be more creative in what they were doing with their capital as well. And we really implemented this to try to help develop new business ventures, expand existing operations, and simply help be part of the job creating machine that we're trying to build in the state of Georgia. Since January 2011, we've had 36 businesses, mostly startups and other young businesses, apply for the exemption. This includes things like breweries, medical technology firms, certainly real estate financing firms, and manufacturers, just to name a few. And 36 businesses doesn't sound like much, but NASA has done a nationwide survey of 30 states that have enacted interstate crowdfunding exemptions, and has found that 30% of all of those offerings have been in Georgia. And I think it would be an even higher percentage if it was based on the actual amount of money raised. IGE has seen Georgia companies raise over $2 million, which certainly is not a staggering amount of money by any means, but it is millions of dollars in deals in Georgia that probably would not have been done otherwise. And that is leading to projects that probably wouldn't have been done or completed. Employees that have been hired out of that, and certainly investments that people are taking advantage of that may not have been there had we not done this. And for full disclosure, the bulk of money raised has come from debt securities issues by Ground Floor. And I know those guys are here today and will be talking about their business, and I'll leave that to them. But we have worked really hand in hand with them. We're very excited that they actually moved their company to Georgia because of the Invest Georgia exemption. They felt like that was the best place for them to be, to really take their business to the next level. And we're glad that they're there. And really through them, I've seen literally firsthand, instead of just looking at stats and numbers, I've seen firsthand how what they're doing has made a difference. I mean, I went to an event that they had where they had some of their investors, and they had some of the folks that were, the projects that they were financing, and in talking to some of these people, I mean, they're taking, foreclosed houses in pretty rough neighborhoods in South Atlanta, buying them, using Ground Floor's platform to raise money to do the rehab on the facility, to make that, really foreclosed property into a home or a rental property that gets sold or put into having productive revenue. And it's worked really well. And that was something. I mean, that's one person. That's 3 or 4 houses that he's done. But I mean, that is a real life situation where it's somebody that has been hunting money and trying to get institutional financing for deals we're doing. It is a very tough environment on the banks right now making those type loans. And so this, is helping bridge that gap. And so I think it is certainly worthy to mention that. I think the beauty of the IGE is really is in its simplicity. The only requirements are that the issuer has to be a for-profit Georgia entity, and they have to deposit the funds into a bank account in Georgia. All of the other aspects are left up to the issuer, the portal if they're using one, and the investor to figure out. And those parties are in a much better position to figure out the structures that work for them, rather than having the government trying to figure out how to do that for them, which rarely works. And the thing that I always told people about this when we first started doing it, got it implemented, and we're doing our initial marketing was, look, this is a real example of letting the market work. And that's, you know, that's where I came from. I mean, I had to make the market work when I was buying rental property. I had to make the market work when we were, you know, building spec houses or, you know, bidding projects or developing a project and turning it into a rental, you know, apartment complex. We had to make the market work, the market numbers that were out there. And that's really what IGE is doing. It's providing, you know, a regulatory environment that's easy to navigate through with minimal cost, and then you simply let the market work. If the, you know, the folks that are trying to raise the money, if they got a good platform and they got good deals and the investor believes in that, then that's going to be a good marriage, if you will. If it's not, then it's not going to work. And that's how the real world works. And that's what we're trying to do in the Secretary of State's office, is just provide that environment where the market can work. In our offering, accredited investors can invest as much as they would like. Unaccredited investors are limited to a $10,000 investment. And the issuers simply have to fill out a simple 1.5-page notice of filing. And of course, all the anti-fraud provisions of our security laws apply, and our enforcement staff is vigilant for that. I want to talk just real quickly in closing about us raising the limit. You know, initially there was $1 million annual cap for offerings under the original IGE. We did an exemption for ground floor to $2 million that helped them up, and that really got us talking about, you know, why should we limit this to $1 million? I mean, really, in the big scheme of things, that is not a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not when you're really thinking about these kind of things. So we raised the cap to $5 million in October this year based on the feedback that we've gotten from interested parties in using the exemption. The $10,000 investment limit for unaccredited investors still apply, and the thought we had behind raising this was that it will enlarge the type of projects that could utilize the exemption. And one of the things that we've actually thought about is, you know, the movie industry and the film industry, TV industry in Georgia is literally booming. I mean, we're the Hollywood of the East Coast now. It's incredible what the state has done. But there's some people out there that have some very creative ideas to use potentially IGE in that realm. So we're excited about that. And I know there'll be other things as well. So that was one of the reasons that we upped the limit. We'll continue to, you know, watch that. If there's needs to go up in the future, that's something that we will certainly consider as we move about. None of the other facets of the IGE change. We simply increased the limit. It's just as easy now to take advantage of the exemption as it ever was. In closing, I'd just like to say I think the Invest Georgia exemption and other types of interstate crowdfunding exemptions can really play an important role in connecting companies and investors. Also getting government out of the way and really letting innovation prosper. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to being on the panel.